AIO for wanting a divorce after my husband, M41, didn't make me dinner, F31. I've been married 2.5 years. No kids. I work many hours a week while my husband works less and barely helps with chores. I've tried talking to him, but he doesn't listen and leaves everything to me. He promised to cook after my 12-hour shift, but didn't. Now he claims I'm overreacting and that it's silly to divorce over chores. Been married for 2.5 years and have no children. We didn't live together before marriage due to our culture. My husband works 35 hours a week. I work 60 to 72-hour weeks 75% of the time. As for the extra salary, I'm using it to overpay one of the mortgages. His shift pattern is also consistent. Mine alternates between days and nights weekly, so my body clock is always changing. I am stuck with most of the chores, including DIY/maintenance, etc. He will spend his time watching YouTube or sleeping. I have tried several times to air my feelings. I've tried the nice way. Doesn't work. I've tried it where I've lost my cool, and that doesn't help. He never tries to understand. It's always a rebuttal, such as the time I left my makeup out, etc. Again, it's minor things cause if I leave things out. It's because I'm doing multiple things and I am the one who puts it back, whereas he will leave things out for weeks. And it'll be me who ends up moving it. Or he'll just get rude. I've tried striking, where I refused to do anything for a week. The house became messier. He got angry and questioned why I hadn't cleaned up and called me a tramp. He has been off work for 3 weeks. He's barely done any chores. He spends his time mostly watching TV and sleeping. He promised me that he'd make some food when I came back from work on Monday. After a 12-hour shift, I come home. I see he has not cooked. I asked him. He said, I didn't feel like cooking, so I went and got myself a ready meal. He then asked me why I got myself food, and I didn't get him anything. I told him because he didn't cook as he promised, and he had no regard for me, so I wasn't going to regard him too. Then the next day I made myself food before going on another 12-hour shift and working 60 hours this week. I made it to last me 3 days. When I got back, I noticed he ate 90% of the food I had cooked for myself. I asked him why he ate it, and if he can't be bothered to cook, he shouldn't eat the food that I make for myself. He told me, don't cook then. Later he said he'll make something for me to eat. He didn't. He clearly has no regards for me. I also cannot respect him, as I don't understand how someone can be so selfish. I want a divorce. He thinks I'm overreacting and claims he does some chores, and that who divorces over chores, but it's just not enough to do 10% of chores and for me to have to nag. It's also a lack of regard on how hard I work, and he continues to expect me to do everything, whilst he can sleep and feel tired, but I am meant to be some sort of robot. I actually felt less stressed, more free, and happier when I lived alone. AIO? Edit. Thanks for the support and replies. For some common questions, my husband is off for 3 weeks as he has annual leave vacation. He usually gets a total of 2.5 months in a year. I don't always work 60 to 72 hours. When I am working, I do those hours 75% of the time. The rest 25% I do 36 hours. I also get about 4 months of leave in a year, so I do spend time at home with my husband, plan dates and holidays. I'll even have days where I'll watch TV with him, in the hope of comprising. I'll have a few days where I won't do chores and just focus on hanging out with him, but nothing works. If I don't get around to chores, it just won't get done and I can't live in filth. Relevant comments. Commenter. Since you're not entangled by children, I'd leave before that can happen. He won't change because he doesn't want to. Leave and don't let him or family pressure suck you back in. Love is not just an emotion, it's also behaviors that demonstrate that love. Letting you work yourself into the ground and not helping you with the basic keeping alive tasks is not love. You deserve better. Commenter. Even if they had kids, she should have still divorced him, because if he's not good as a husband, he won't be good as a father. His selfishness and disregard for his own wife are clear proof of that. Commenter. What? Number nor. Don't put up with that shit. It's not divorcing over chores. It's divorcing due to a glaringly obvious lack of mutual respect. I'm sorry, but he sounds like a complete waste of oxygen, and you will absolutely be happier without him. Sending cuddles. Commenter. Oh, please divorce that lazy loser. You need to get a lawyer that will look into the extra payments you've made on the house or second property, so you come out relatively with how much you've invested. Please do this ASAP. Don't let this man take advantage of you anymore. Also, please take a holiday. Go away for a free days or a week by yourself or with friends. You need some fresh air away from his stagnant presence. All my best. You deserve it. NTA Story 2. Ada for not supporting my wife when she started to cry at a Swedish tradition. I, M52, and my wife, F47, already have 3 kids, M13, F13, and F20. But a few months back, we felt like we could use a breath of fresh air, so we signed up to take a foreign exchange student for a year. We have a 16-year-old Swedish girl that I will call Sarah, and that has worked very well. She's very open and honest and loves to share how things are in Sweden and how different things are here in the US. It was her birthday just a few days ago, so we gathered around the laptop while she was FaceTiming her family, and they started singing in Swedish, but the song was particularly longer and more repetitive. So after the call, I asked her about it, and she explained that some families in Sweden sing a song song where they talk about shooting, hanging, and drowning the birthday person after they turn 100. My wife overheard this and started to get annoyed because, in her words, it was inappropriate and extremely disrespectful to her household when she sang that without her knowing. My wife isn't naturally sensitive to bad language or words, but when she was born, she had a 60-year-old dad who died when he was 96, so she is more conscious about how elderly people can feel just before they are about to die, and she felt like the song was making fun of people when they are old and sick. Me and the twins were embarrassed while standing there, so I asked her to calm down and that it was just a Swedish joke song that wasn't even meant in that way, but she just started ranting about how it was her house too, and that she shouldn't be afflicted to such derogatory language behind her back. Sarah obviously felt bad and tried to apologize, and that she didn't mean to be disrespectful in that way, and that it was just her family singing the song, but my wife just stormed out and yelled how she couldn't believe we had taken in a girl from such a cruel family. I tried to talk to her in our room right after I assured Sarah that she didn't do anything wrong and to just pay no mind. My wife was apparently more upset at me for not supporting and agreeing with her and started to cry about how I knew what she had gone through concerning her father, but didn't back her up. The house has been extremely tense, especially when all of us are in the same room, but I really don't understand how a Swedish song could make her so upset. But I'm wondering if I should have taken my wife's side and been more sympathetic. Ada, relevant comments. Commenter, NTA. Here's the joke. First verse, may she live for 100 years. Of course she'll live for 100 years. Second verse, when she has lived for 100 years, then she will be pushed. The Swedish word for push is the same as shoot. On a wheelbarrow. Third verse, when she has been pushed, shot, on a wheelbarrow, then she will be hung upon a horse. Fourth verse, when she's been hung up on a horse, she will be drowned, same as the word for drenched, in a lake of champagne. It is incredibly harmless, and only becomes morbid once the person reaches their 80s, when the first verse becomes, in effect, if not in fact, may she live for another 20 years at least. Commenter, translations can be tricky, and no doubt young Sarah's English skills were not up to explaining it well. Your wife owes her an apology. Story 3. AITA for telling my MIL she can never visit us, or my SIL again. My SIL Alice is a single mom. She had her first child at 16 and her second by 19. Alice lived with her parents but was often mistreated by my MIL Pat. My mother-in-law is a mean, petty woman. She wore a light beige dress to my wedding, and anything I do isn't good enough. My grandmother died and I inherited a double condo townhouse. My husband and I moved into one, and the tenants next to us moved out about 6 months ago. Alice was having a hard time, so I told my hubby if she could keep it nice, she could move in. Alice is working part-time and going to orthodontics assistant schooling. She's not the troubled person that my mother-in-law makes her out to be. In 6 months, she hasn't been a problem, and the boys are now 7 and 4, so not bad children, just boys. They remind me of my cousins. My mother-in-law was visiting Alice, and the 7-year-old was outside playing and knocking over a planter on my side. Not a big deal. My mother-in-law screamed at him and called him a little N-word because he's a mixed child. I was so angry at her. I told my mother-in-law to leave the property and not come back to visit ever. My seal was shocked, but cried, saying her mom often spoke to the 7-year-old like that. I told my hubby, and he thinks we overreacted to his mom, and his mom just isn't used to children playing rough because they weren't allowed to. I told my husband a ball bouncing is not rough playing. It's an accident, and his mother's language was inexcusable under any circumstances, so for the boy's mental health, that women is not allowed over. His whole family said I'm being dramatic, and Alice has the habit of over-exaggerating everything, but I heard for myself what his mother said, and in 6 months of Alice living in the next condo to us, she has never given me the reason not to trust her or think she's an unfit mother or bad person. Update. My mother-in-law is still insisting she didn't say that, and I misheard her. My husband and I are still arguing over it because he thinks because his mother said it in anger because the child broke something expensive. I don't think that's a valid reason to say that to a child or anyone ever. Relevant comments. Commenter, NTA. I don't think mean and petty is enough to describe your Mael. Your Mael is also racist. I can't imagine screaming slurs at a child for an accident. OP, keep this woman away from you, your SIL, your nephews, and your husband because this woman is someone you shouldn't be around. Edit. I missed the fact your husband says you're overreacting to this. That is insane he thinks that, and leads me to have certain thoughts about him. Commenter. If the mom used a racist slur and the husband doesn't think it's a big deal, I have some bad news about the husband. Commenter. Yes, that's extremely concerning in itself. Only racists are okay with racist language being used, and only a troubled person is okay with it being directed at a child. I'd be having a very serious conversation with the husband at this point because that's a big red flag. He cannot allow that kind kind of behavior, and he will need to learn how to put up boundaries and respect his wife. If he wants to coddle his racist and abusive mommy, he can live with her. Commenter: I would also add that she should keep Emil away from her own future children should she have any, because even if they're of purebred Aryan race, they shouldn't be exposed to such blatant racism. However, I don't really think she should be having kids with this man at all until he looks long and deep into his own racism. He was raised by this woman and may need to see a therapist for a while to get beyond the worldview she's inflicted upon him. Story 4. AIO for my wife making multiple jokes about another guy getting her pregnant. Wife is 26 and I'm 29. Been married for 2 years and together 4. We recently bought a house and decided we want to start our family together. All very exciting, we are on the same page. Since the decision, my wife has insane baby fever that reached a level that I think is extreme. A couple of her friends decided to have kids as well and all got pregnant relatively fast. For whatever reason, she is feeling the pressure and I think jealous. We started trying in May, so not the long ago, and from what I read, it takes people up to a year to get pregnant. So I'm not too worried yet, but my wife has progressively got more intense and more upset by the entire thing. What started as fun in the beginning has now turned into what feels like her blaming me. I've talked to her about it and she does agree she needs to calm down, but she will make comments like the ones that I'm now super annoyed by. I am in public accounting and it's our busy season coming into September and October. I'm working 60 to 70 hours a week. All this work and stress always takes a hit on my sex drive. As people who are trying or have had kids will know, there is a 3 to 4 day window to try to hit to make it work. During this window, my wife wants to have sex 3 times a day or more. I'm not actually sure if this matters, but she is convinced it does. With the state of my job and stress, I'm managing only once or twice during this window, and it turns into an argument because she is saying we only get this one chance and it's hard for her to wait a whole other month. I also couldn't do as much as she wanted when I wasn't stressed. She is overall just frustrated with it. We had some neighbors over for drinks and we're talking about all this, and they have 3 kids. The wife was saying how they immediately got pregnant without even trying. Later, my wife wanted to have sex and I said I was not in the mood, and she made a joke that our neighbor could come over. I was obviously annoyed and she kept saying it's just a joke, it's just a joke. I let it go, but it did bother me that she would even think that. The next time she was ovulating and I didn't want to have sex as her, she again made another joke that she could do it with another guy just to get pregnant. Now this time I really got annoyed because I told her before I didn't like the first comment, and now she said it twice. She apologized, but she also says I'm overreacting as it's just a joke. But to me, she is joking. Sure, I don't think she would actually do that, but obviously she is thinking about it. I feel like it's such a rude thing to say your husband who is stressed and has a wife who is inadvertently already making him feel inadequate. Then on top of that, she is adding in jokes that seem to pile on that. Every time I bring it up, she gets defensive and says I can't take a joke, and she already apologized. She said she will never say it again, but the entire thing has just made me see her a little differently. Edit. I reread the post, and I think I missed something that maybe makes it more fair to her. Maybe. During when I've been busy, there was a time when I didn't want to have sex with her the entire ovulating period. We didn't have sex and missed that time chance. This is when she said the first joke. In the post, I didn't say that clearly. This is when she got frustrated. Before that, we did, but not as much as she wanted, but she didn't say any jokes, relevant comments. Commenter: there's truth in every jest. I think you're underreacting, and the insinuation that she'd find another man to step up and impregnate her is beyond offensive and destructive to your connection and relationship. She is planting seeds of her own infidelity. It doesn't even matter that she thinks she's joking and truly would never cheat. She's destroying the membrane of trust. I don't think she's understanding the implications of that. How could you not question the paternity of your kid when she's the one giving you the idea? Maybe explain it to her in those terms. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest ones. Have a great day.